Before, level 1, and mastery. Hey, I'm Sour and I make videos with hardstyle production while pretending this doesn't hurt my actual hardstyle production. And today I'll tell you all you need to know about how to make perfect chord and harmony layers every single time. In case you've never made them, harmony layers and chord layers add a lot of depth you can't otherwise get, and this makes your leads sound a lot bigger than they actually are. No, not like that. Let's dive in. A simple way to imitate the sound of those juicy harmony layers is by making a chord layer. The first step is finding a nice light supersol. I like these from the Fruity Masters Sound of Silent 1 bank. Copy your melody to this new instrument and make it follow the bass line. A quick way of doing that is by removing all the pitch bend notes if you have any, then selecting all by pressing Ctrl plus A, then go to Tools, Limit and set the range to one note. And accept, of course. After this, it is simply selecting the parts and dragging them to the corresponding bass note. Now that you have your bass line, it is really easy to make the chords on top, and even easier if you have a melody. Duplicate the bass line you just made, move the second half up by an octave or two, that is 24 notes, or 2 times pressing Ctrl plus arrow key up. Duplicate it again, and now move this up, skipping 2 notes. Now you've made every chord a minor chord. Now listen to what you have done. For every chord it sounds like shit, move the newly made layer up by 1, making it major. If you do this carefully, you will get nice chords every single time, given that your bass line is correct. Duplicate it the last time and move this up. Skip 3 notes from one of your minor chords and you are done. Now the only thing you have to do to make it sound nice is inverting it until it fits your sound. Inverting is done by selecting a group of notes like this, then pressing Ctrl plus arrow key up until it sounds more uniform and fresh. You are aiming for a sound that doesn't really feel full. You are aiming for fresh. Congratulations, you just made a supportive chord layer. Read the video title. That's not what you came to learn, so sit down and listen. A harmony layer is essentially like a second voice in vocals, singing slightly higher, making it feel more whole. With hardstyle we tend to use 2 of these, and the easiest way to make them is as follows. I recently learned my audience is largely male and probably alone, so let's try something targeted. Hey you! Are you tired of sample packs and sound banks that do not live up to expectation? Then get our FDA approved Serum bank for hardstyle and other music for the ridiculously low price of a medium quality crate of beer. Beer is good. This pack is filled to the brim with sounds so good you can seduce mermaids. And due to the excess time you will spend indoors with this, it is scientifically proven to reduce skin cancer risks. The pack itself with its 124 presets is so big, your cock will get massive by second-hand largitude. Get your copy before everyone else gets famous because they got it earlier. We want to make a chord around every single note in the melody, and it sounds pretty complicated because it kind of is. We have these background chords which are grey in FL Studio. It's great because it's so easy to see what you do, right? So in case of these notes, for example, we are going to layer down because that's how my brain works. And for this, for example, or like for this, you can see it's just going down like this and like that. And this sounds pretty cool. Now for these, we can just stick to this note again, and we used a D sharp there, so let's use a D sharp there. It's the same chord, same bassline lights, right? So cool. Let's see, we've got a G there, so pretty easy. Just make sure everything is similar. There are some notes, however, that don't really line up with anything in the chord. So what you can do for that is just leave them for now and just work on the rest. So let's do these, right? And hey, don't you know, we got an F right there and an F right there. So we can just copy this note pretty much, right? And for this D sharp, we can just borrow this C, right? And borrow this G. And this way, because you steal a lot from your own melody, it is kind of guaranteed to work well. There are of course a million exceptions, because why would it be easy? But as you can see, this is a pretty easy way to make harmonies. Hell yeah. And again, this is the D sharp from there. And you can just follow this entire melody like this. Let's see, this is an A sharp, right? Yeah, cool. So again, like, let's make them like that. Borrowing this C. And also we're gonna borrow a D sharp in there. So I just did the entire melody like this, and I just followed this same simple step, right? And as you can see, for example, this chord, it looks a little bit out of place, but if you just overlay it right there, hey, same chord, and this F, yeah. Okay, now we made some technically correct harmony layers. However, technically correct is pretty fucking boring. So let's spice it up. For spicing it up, we have a couple of techniques, and my favorite technique of them happens to be a step earlier, where you kind of like make your chords different, right? So for my reference chords, you could have like seen this in the entire videos until this point, right? So let's invert it back to its normal state, which is like right around there. So instead of playing just the C minor chord, I started out with a bit of a dissonant note in there. And you can play a lot with this, there's a lot of variations you can... Also works great. And you can play a bit with the timing. But I feel like this just fits so well. So that's what I did. If you made some fancier chords like this, it is really easy to make your harmonies also a bit more fancy. So you can see this note also being special right there. It is the F. So what if we just make this D sharp into an F? It sounds pretty... This first chord sounds really cool, but the second kind of just loses it for me. It doesn't really resolve. So what you can do is you can just play around with this a lot. And I know not everyone is going to be happy to hear this, but trust me on this, just use your fucking ears. This to me sounds way better. Let's do the same here. So follow that chord, right? And in this case, for example, like I kept going down there, so I feel like this adds a bit more spice to it, which to me is also really important. And that brings us to our second step. Our second step is making sure that the individual layers also sound good. And what I mean by that is like later on in this process we are going to separate all these different layers and we're gonna layer them until they sound juicy. These two, like the top melody goes down. Da-da, da-da, da-da. And this middle layer just stays at one note. It's like, I don't know, like especially when you start to layer it, you can hear this stuff like a sore fucking thumb. To spice it up, I just kind of move it up until it doesn't sound wrong, right? Because like if you get a like clearly fucked sounding thing, change it. But this, while it doesn't sound as smooth as the first attempt, this does sound more interesting. And those little details, like for example this, compared to, is just a matter of personal preference. And again, you're not aiming for perfect. If it sounds decent, you're there. Like it doesn't need to be perfect, so don't stress about it. Like a lot of people just get frustrated with this and just give up halfway because they can't seem to get it right, even though they already got it right. If you aim for perfect, you're wasting your time. This sounds a bit clunky to me. Hell yeah. Congratulations, you actually made your first full harmony. Now, because we are chefs, we are also going to separate the yolks from the egg whites. And what I mean by that is we're just gonna rip this all apart to make it actually sound really cool. In my final layering, this layer we just made tends to be like very much into the background, like you don't really want to hear it. It is just there to glue what we're about to do all together. This middle one is going to be a separate harmony layer, and the lower one is going to be a separate harmony layer. So what I want you to do is, I want you to really carefully select everything. Just press Ctrl and Shift at the same time, and you can do the multi-select thing I'm doing right now. Take your time with this, because it is so easy to just skip a few and like ruin your entire day, because it's really hard to figure out which notes you actually skipped. Hell yeah! So let me know in the comments what you want me to talk about in the next video. It could be the complete pitch bend guide, it could also be a sidechaining guide, or it could be anything else you want me to talk about in my videos. I also want to announce I just launched my very own Discord server. If you want feedback from me, if you just want to like get to know a cool community of fellow hardstyle producers, feel free to join. I'll link it down in the description. I hope to see you there. If you want a melody like the one I showed in the video, you should definitely check out my MIDI packs. I'll link them down in the description as well. But with all that said and done, I wish you a very good night. It was a pleasure to be your host once again. Until we meet again.